Chris and Chris Talk Business.
Hello, welcome to the Chris and Chris Show. This is Chris.
And I'm Chris.
Yes, we're both named Chris. It was really like a eureka moment when we said we could call the show Chris and Chris Talk Business.
Maybe for you.
That's right.
It just seemed to.
Well, thank you.
Just seemed to make sense for me. It just, makes sense.
Well, anyways, we got some friends here, and we're going to be talking business. So, Christopher and Grant, great to have you here to learn a little bit about your new venture. So, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Tell us whatever you think people out there in our audience ought to know about you, and then let's jump into what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll start. Grant Michael. Lived in the Northwest area for the last 15 years. Grew up in Hawaii.
Somebody has to do it.
Someone does. It was nice as a kid. Went back there for work at one point.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different feeling. But went to WSU here locally. Graduated with my engineering degree in mechanical. Got picked up by a large construction firm, and me and Mackenzie had just gotten married around that time, and then that's when they shipped us off to Hawaii.
Okay.
It's a long honeymoon.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. But working in the construction industry, mainly in the equipment fleet management service. So we take care of the equipment that the production team is using to build the large infrastructure work. And we were taking care of projects like 20-mile long stretches of elevated bridge work, light rail systems, emergency dam work, and things like that. So from Hawaii, I traveled pretty much up and along the West Coast for the last 10 years. Probably moved about 8 times in that 10 years, and then more recently landed back here in the Northwest area.
Well, we're glad you did.
Yeah.
We're glad you did. Christopher.
Absolutely. So I'm Christopher Berkompas. I'm also kind of local to the area. Moved up here when I was about 6. So grew up here, but spent some time down in Texas when I was getting my start in business. Married for 14 years now and have 7 kids, one of whom is due any day now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Huge blessing, and really, really proud of all of them. On the business side, I've been a serial entrepreneur, so I've mostly in the software space. So
By the way, I had to explain to Chris that this is not like breakfast cereal.
Exactly.
I mentioned
Why do you
to
got to
him.
bring that up?
not Raisin
I was like,
Bran.
how many cereals does he make? Like crunchy cereals, soggy cereals, sweet cereals?
Yeah, all of them. Yeah.
He's like C, not S. And I was like, oh.
Actually, the other way is S, not C.
I don't know how to read. Why do you got to bring that up again? So I like
Anyway,
cereal
sorry
and
to
I
interrupt,
can't,
but that was
I
just too
can't
perfect.
spell.
That was too perfect.
Yeah, so I co-founded a couple of software companies in the property management space, starting as a marketplace that connected landlords with property management companies. And then the second company we held on to a lot longer, and that was providing business software to help property management companies streamline their sales and operations. So most of my career has been focused on helping, basically building technology for service companies.
Yeah, so kind of the B2B kind of world.
It's all been B2B. Yep.
Yeah. In case folks are wondering, that means business to business. So, which is, something that obviously, unless you're in the business world, you would not know that there's like this whole sort of like world out there where businesses are hiring each other.
Yeah,
for
the most products we buy are business to consumer products.
Right. So you guys are getting something else going. So this would be like another business.
Yes.
Let's
Really
learn
excited about
that.
it. So the company's brand new. We're Reliant Fleet Services.
Okay.
And we provide mobile fleet and equipment maintenance as a service. So one difference from my background, but very familiar to Grant, is that this is a technology-enabled service company. So we actually hire technicians, we send them to a job site, and they provide that maintenance as a service to our clients. And it's a kind of a little bit of a different business model, but we've got a lot of technology kind of behind the scenes making that streamlined and efficient.
Before I get into the product, how did you guys get connected and when did this gel?
Through church.
Yep.
Westminster. Yep.
Now known as
First
Presbyterian of Alabama.
Yep.
That's right.
So you met at church, but when did you say, hey, let's make a business together?
We kind of hit it off talking about business stuff. I remember
about a year ago.
maybe the second conversation that we had, we got into business background and have always clicked really well on that. This idea we started exploring around the middle of last year.
Okay. So relatively very, 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 very soon.
Yeah.
Or
Yep.
not too
Yeah,
long
you guys
ago.
are just getting off the ground.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Brand new.
Yeah. Well, that's great because, it's good to have people that we talk to that are at kind of different stages of the journey.
Yeah.
But you've been down this road before.
Yeah.
So,
Been kind of doing this for about 17 years.
yeah.
Total.
Yeah. So, Grant, have you done any anything like this before?
Maybe when I was 15 and doing my own yard, business and whatnot,
Right,
but no,
right.
not to that scale.
Nothing wrong with the mowing lawns. Nothing wrong with mowing lawns.
Right.
Nope, I had an eye for the elderly who had acres of land
Yeah,
and couldn't
yeah.
take care of it themselves.
Oh,
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Started as a church thing and then branched out from there. But
Was it a nonprofit or a
it
for-profit?
was for profit.
Good.
That's right. This wasn't a ministry to old people. This was like pay me or
It
you
was
don't
fair
get
pricing.
So anyway, getting back to this business. So there are a lot of companies that got fleets,
Yeah.
and so what are the things that they're needing? So what's kind of like your way into
Right.
the business relationship?
Yeah. I mean, for me, coming from that background as an equipment manager, it really the conversation started more around technology. For myself, I have anywhere from 5 to 10 different programs that I utilize to culminate a very functionable, effective program to help manage my technicians, vendors, and whatnot, right? And there's really not one program to rule them all.
Okay.
So that's where this kind of conversation then led into. And
Okay,
it's
so you guys
something
have made the ring?
Yeah, we're working on it.
One ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, though.
Yeah.
So that is something that could be a real value to a company if they're like frustrated with the inability to sort of like see these different, I'm guessing, forms of software work with each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of different pieces. Telematics is a big piece with equipment that's not stationary on site. Even with stationary equipment, telematics is useful. But basically, telematics is just a module that you connect to the machine that communicates with the cloud and sends information about the status of the machine, whether that's the engine hours or any fault codes or the level of fuel in the machine, location. There's a lot of very useful information that you can get on the equipment and then put that into a program, manage maintenance with it, and do a lot.
Gotcha. Now, thinking about the machine, I imagine there are lots of different kinds of machines that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And being able to keep track of where your machine is could be really helpful because I was actually on the board of a developer in Seattle.
They were still in dozers and stuff.
They were.
Yeah.
They actually, they lost.
I remember that.
They lost a pretty expensive, like,
It was like
a $500,000.
Yeah, it was like $750,000, I think. Yeah.
And it just drove off. And like the police in Seattle said, "We're sorry." This is back during defund the police kind of stuff. They said we lost all our funding for theft.
Yep.
We can't help you. But literally, that's what they said. Now, if somebody had been killed, we have the people to take care of you if that had happened.
Yeah.
But just because you lost like a $750,000, loader, it's just too bad for you.
Yep.
They don't investigate crime anymore.
Yeah, they just don't.
Yeah.
No, welcome to the insanity of the present time. But anyway, so knowing where your stuff is helps.
Yep.
Yeah.
What kind of machinery typically are you managing, I guess, for the client? And I guess, who are the clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna vary. There's anywhere from the mid-size to small contractors doing more local work, or the big contractors coming into town taking care of the mega projects, as we call them. So it's gonna be work that's being done for City of Portland, redoing bridge works and things like that, or road construction.
Great.
We can also branch off into trucking fleet. Amazon Prime in their fleet, or
Yeah.
Dollar Tree in all their trucking vehicles and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. Anybody who's dealing with retail would
Yep.
also, needing delivery services, stuff
Absolutely.
like that. Yeah, this could be a huge market.
Yeah, so trucking is a major industry.
Yeah.
Heavy equipment, construction equipment is another. Rental companies are a big segment that we're paying attention to.
Yeah.
Because they've got, everybody's short-staffed right now. That's one macro trend that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Schools are only graduating about 50% of the diesel mechanics that the market wants. And there's also a retirement cliff that's happening right now where a lot of the most experienced guys are retiring. So we're headed into probably 10 to 15 years of persistent shortage on this
Yeah.
talent. And, organizing that labor really efficiently is going to be how some companies get ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, which brings up a whole host of other things that are unrelated to your business, but
Right.
create the kind of moment for your business to come on the scene and help, which is great. I'm glad that that's happened. But that's always the way it is, isn't it? There's always a problem. Businesses don't start unless somebody has a problem. Like if your life is perfectly set, you have everything you need. You're not like looking for help, and so there's no opportunity. Now you're identifying like this huge set of problems that you've got a solution for that'll at least help. That's great.
I was actually just challenging what you thought in my head as you said it, that nobody creates solutions for things that aren't problems. And I was like, there's tons of solutions. And I was like, dude, the governments are creating solutions for the problems that don't exist. I was like, but businesses, creative entrepreneurs, they're typically not solving problems that don't exist.
Yeah, or maybe people aren't aware yet that they could use some help.
Sure.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you come along and say, hey, by the way, you could do this a lot better.
Yeah.
If you
Yep.
had just had this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Especially with this business wrapped around preventative maintenance.
Yeah.
Not everyone sees high dollar value in that focus. So I think there'll be a little bit of training and raising and just eye opening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can wait till it breaks, and then you've got the cost of downtime,
Yeah.
all the lost labor, all the contract implications of not being able to be done on time, and
Right.
there's a really high cost of downtime, but it doesn't get quantified for a lot of companies.
Now let's let me help me understand. In terms of the technology that you're using to monitor this, sort of market and the fleets and all that kind of stuff. So, is it help that a lot of stuff these days is already kind of wired and is communicating? Is that kind of what you're
It does
tying
help.
into?
In the heavy equipment space, most of the original manufacturers have telematics on the machines. So you can tap into that. The customer usually does have to pay some kind of a subscription to Caterpillar to turn that on. But you do have access to that. A lot of machines are older though, and the problem is that the telematics platforms don't talk to each other. So you still need some
Integration.
tool to integrate all that data in one place, because
ring.
people want one screen they can look at.
Yeah, the ring. The
How
ring.
Yep.
I wonder though, like, if you're telling me there's a service that's going to provide me the ability to see what's going to break, and if I just do preventative stuff, it's not going to happen. I'm like, humans don't operate that way. Like, we all know that, like, we're going to, like, you tell, like, I'll use health. Humans do nothing to prevent all the health things that we know that are going to happen, majority, or I would say some, or maybe most. We know what we need to do to prevent horrible health things. We don't do it. We're lazy and selfish in a lot of ways. So why would we do that for our automobile? We're not doing it for.
Yeah, people order like 4-pound steaks.
And the bone was like 2 pounds. He's referring to me. I think I'm seeing where my position is on the
look
show.
at the size of that steak.
I was bummed it wasn't 4 pounds of meat.
But he makes a good point. So,
Yeah.
so it's like part of the business model to educate.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's a lot of education for some, and I think there's a lot out there that know that it's important. They just don't have the resources to do it well. So they're coming in, filling that gap, and then taking the effort and time to help network and open the eyes of those that don't really see it as advantageous, and offering some incentives and just trying to get in there and, again, network.
So is there kind of like a price sort of sweet spot for this sort of service? I imagine you're finding it. But if you have a sense of what it would be, and you don't need to tell us, but what's the philosophy of how you go about pricing something like this?
So we've kind of triangulated based on what market rates are. We're coming in below the dealership rate, which is typically the highest in the market. Criticism of the dealers usually is around quality and speed and availability.
Those are
they're
kind
usually
of important.
Yeah.
So you're paying more than you should for less than you should get. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems like an opportunity.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's a huge pinpoint.
So we're definitely aiming to provide high quality at a fair price.
So you're not just monitoring. Are you doing the maintenance on the vehicles then?
Yes.
Okay. So you're incentivized to do the maintenance because, well, I mean, they go hand in hand. I like that because that was my next question is like, you can alert somebody, but how do you, who fixes what or maintains what?
Yeah.
I feel like go ahead.
Well, I guess so. There's a lot of trust in a situation like that. So when you say, "Hey, you better take care of this. It's about to fail. It's only going to cost us X, Y to take care of it for you." There's a trust issue there, right? So you're like, okay, yeah, right.
Right.
That kind of. How do you deal with that?
That's actually one of the big criticisms people have of the dealers.
Okay.
You've had this experience, I'm sure, with the car. You take it in, you find all sorts
Oh, I got a
of
story.
Yeah. So yeah, I think honesty and integrity have to be core to any business in this space if you don't want to develop that reputation.
Yeah, particularly since you're going to have like an ongoing sort of monthly fee, I'm assuming, to maintain the monitoring. Yeah. Well, you bring this up. I don't know if I ever shared this with you, but my muffler came. So the coupling on my muffler to the tailpipe came off. So it was making a lot of noise, and actually it was for the muffler to the manifold, and so it's making a lot of noise. So I take it into the local Jeep dealership, and I have no problem mentioning the name or anything like that. I just can't remember it. And the guy says, "Oh yeah, you need it. This is just awful. You're going to need the entire exhaust system replaced." I think he looked at me and thought I was a chump. I really do. So he says it's going to be $7,000. I said, "You're nuts." I looked underneath. There's a coupling. All I need to do is get that replaced. So I went to the local, muffler shop and had it taken care of for $250. So I had the quote, and I posted it online, and then I had what it really cost to fix it, and I said, just so you know. And that's the second time somebody from the Pacific North. So Pacific Northwest auto repair people are
It's not like Texas.
yeah, they're kind of scuzzy in my experience.
Good market for honest techs then.
That's right. But anyway, so if you can develop that reputation for delivering the goods at fair
Well, I
price.
see there's now my brain's cooking in the way of thinking through, but I feel like automobile manufacturers would have an incentive to have you monitoring and maintaining their vehicles, because I think there's a disconnect between dealerships who, especially when that vehicle's under warranty, I don't think dealerships care. They want to rack up that bill, as much as they can. And they're just going to bill, Toyota, the Toyota the parent company.
Right.
And so they don't care if it's a big bill, but the manufacturer does, because they want the car to work. They want to last as long. Maybe they want to last a long time, and they don't want to pay, big warranty bills. I think so that was one. And then insurance companies, I feel like this could be an element of insurance improvement, where you're improving the reliability of something and really the stewardship of it. And insurance companies probably don't like people that don't steward their stuff well.
Or, when you're doing business in Seattle and you have a $750,000 loader stolen and you can't find it, I imagine the insurance company would be really interested in making sure it's easy to find.
Being able to go, or not them being able to go get it back, but they hired these guys for a monthly fee, and then you got to go to some shady place and pick up some
There's a guy named
dozer.
Guido. He can get it back. Yeah, right.
No, seems like there's many avenues that you could possibly be going, and you probably are going.
Well, let's get into that. So how are you marketing it? How's that? I know you're just getting started.
Yeah. So what's working for us right now, we're talking to some national groups, and those conversations are very interesting because you have to balance the capacity to serve the account with, whether it's closed or not.
Yeah.
So those conversations are going very well. And it would only relate right now to like local locations.
Sure.
But it could become more than that.
So, yeah, this could be something that goes outside of the Pacific Northwest eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the goal. We'd love to prove it in one market and nail some of the fundamentals first. But
Sure.
yeah, we'd love to take this nationally.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great.
But a lot of door-to-door, a lot of relational selling.
Yeah, so it's kind of like finding that gold vein we've been talking about
Yeah.
in other shows, where you finally get and then you can kind of see it develop. But initially, there's a lot of digging.
Corey's gold vein was the employers that had the 401ks that
Yeah, right.
businesses didn't know,
Yeah.
and if you got in on that back end, you got access to all those clients.
We had Corey Thomas on the show
Yeah.
yesterday. Yeah.
Well, that's very true. I mean, there's a lot of rental outfits out there that have clients that ask them to send their technicians out to come take care of their equipment, their own personally owned equipment, but their technicians are busy taking care of the rental equipment.
Sure.
So working with the rental companies right now is kind of like that gold vein that we're noticing that with that relationship, they can pass our name on to those clients that can then go and support them and satisfy their clients.
Because this is kind of a fascinating thing to get into, because it's like everything is like a world unto itself. Like you stand on the outside, you have no clue what's going on. And then you talk to a few people on the inside of something, you're like, man, this thing is huge. This thing is like a whole world I didn't know existed. I'd never thought about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know even people maintained any of this stuff. So I was like,
Some don't.
some don't. And that's where you guys come in.
Right.
The other thing I ponder, though, is I feel like you're solving your innovative solution, and your company is innovative, and you're solving a problem for people that don't sound innovative, and they do sound like they're maybe living in the past. Like, my guess is you're not selling this product for like Teslas, but but they're highly because Tesla's solving this problem maybe on their own.
Yep.
So how does an innovative company? Now I'm going to think about this thank you. I'm going to think about this for a long time. How does an innovative company work within a non-innovative culture of businesses? Like, that would drive me insane. Like I wouldn't do it. So
I imagine at a certain point you're dealing with kind of different animals. Like a national firm would probably have a more interest in just sort of like because of the volume, right? Saving 1% would be maybe a lot of money, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, say, Bob's Electrical Service down the street, with a fleet of 4, that kind of thing.
Yeah, each client's definitely got a different take on what's priority. You've got some companies that their equipment is the first thing that their client sees, and so the equipment better be looking sharp.
Yeah.
So even the slightest dent in the body panel needs to be replaced, and that adds up.
Yeah.
But they're willing to spend that on a regular basis because, again, aesthetics matter.
Yeah.
And then you do have the local companies, let's say, that we need it running.
sure.
That's about it.
Yeah.
And so we do need to kind of cater to a degree and balance that. But when it comes to preventative maintenance, it's kind of a no-brainer all around across the board.
Yeah, particularly if your business is like really, I imagine UPS would be like a great account.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
But and speaking of that, I remember watching something about UPS. Like their trucks are brown, but they like wash them every day or something like that. It's just kind of nuts.
Why wouldn't they just not wash them and they just stay brown?
Because some people notice. But yeah, their whole kind of shtick is that we're better than the United States Postal Service. And, you see that United States Postal Service,
It's more gray.
Because you have things kind of like coming down the road and falling apart as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. And your employees or operators or drivers, I mean, I talk to a lot of them that bounce from one company to the other, and they talk and, they appreciate jumping in equipment that's reliable, up and running and looking good. And if the company is focusing on making that happen, they keep their employees.
Well, that's an interesting thing, that the employee also is a factor in this, in
Yeah.
the cost of keeping an employee. So if you're like an employee and you're driving this like hunk of junk, it's just literally falling apart, and your employer never pays any attention to like its care. And you're kind of embarrassed to show up at places.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah. That's I'd never thought of it.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Broken windows.
Yeah. Back to policing. You know, the whole world. You know, Giuliani. You know, that's what you're referring to. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's just something that they lost track of in New York, and that's why they're going back into the ugly world of the 1970s, just like really fast. Everything I'm hearing. So I actually I have a guy who was a consultant, and he's a friend, and he's like living in denial. Living in denial because he's just like, he grew up in the country, and now he's like a city guy, and he's like, oh, the cities are great. And I say, no, they're not. They're falling apart. Yeah, they are, man. And I talk to people like live in places where he thinks are just great. And I'm like, no, the thing is falling apart.
Yeah, but we can look forward to, we could go camping and sleep in Central Park. Like, it's going to get that bad, right?
Well, you don't
Urban
want to like
camping.
go to camp in Central Park because you might not be alive at the time of the dawn. Dawns.
Details.
I remember driving through Brooklyn or the Bronx, and you'd see a car that had broken down in the evening, and by the morning,
was
the
gone.
wheels were gone.
Yeah.
You know, all the valuable parts were just like sitting there on blocks. Anyway, those were the days back in the early 80s and 70s. But anyway, getting back to a happier thing to talk about, which is this. So as you are getting it off the ground, how many weeks, months have you been at it now? How's it been going?
So probably we'd say 3. Like the entity didn't exist until the middle of February, and trucks got purchased at the beginning of March here, and insurance is landing this week. So
You noticed that?
yeah.
How many? Is it just you two, or do you have any other team members?
So we have a couple of part-time technicians.
Part-time, or
Part-time currently.
We had part-time. In our early days, they're like, what's part-time? It's 5 to 10 hours a week. You know, you're going to work 40, but we're going to pay you 5 to 10. You know, no,
So are these guys on call? Is that the way
Yeah.
basically it is?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. The clients call us, and we try to schedule around what their availabilities are, and try to squeeze things in.
So I saw, you've got the website up, and I think one of the vehicles that you guys got. So you got it wrapped and ready to go and everything.
Not actually wrapped. Kind of cool story.
Okay.
2 identical vehicles that are ex-National Guard vehicles and already in the blue brand color that we were hoping for.
Oh, nice.
So really cool start in terms of service trucks. And
Yeah.
Well, that's fun to think about. So, make sure your company colors or whatever the government has got surplus in.
Exactly.
We're seeing more and more of them, that specific vehicle
right.
out there. So
Interesting. Well, that is the way it works. That once you have something, you discover that a lot of other people had it, and you never even noticed it before that. But, yeah. So, in terms of where you hope things go, do you have like a growth, kind of vision? Kind of charted out. Imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely did a lot of financial modeling going in, because one of the things you want to figure out with the new business is, so we did a lot of customer research, but then, financial modeling to understand what needs to be true for this business to make money in all the different activities that we provide. So on the inspection side, if we offer that as a monthly subscription service, then there's unit economics that go into that. Same thing with service and repair work. So we did a lot of analysis to understand that. And then growth-wise, this definitely could grow to a reasonable size here locally. We could end up with a pretty decent-sized team here in this Portland, Vancouver metro area.
Yeah.
But I think once we figure out maybe 12 months in what this model looks like here, we'd love to take it into different promising markets. And this is an okay market for construction, but it's definitely not the hottest market currently.
Yeah, it's not Dallas. It's not
Correct.
Houston. Right?
It's not even Boise. So.
Right. Wow. When you're comparing yourself to Boise, you say, we're not even Boise. So now, this is your third time down this road, your first time down the road. So a lot of our listeners are first timers.
Yep.
Were you thinking in this level of detail the first time out, or were you just sort of like building it as you rode it. The idea
No.
of like build the wagon while you ride it, kind of.
Yeah, we've definitely always put the wheels on as we're going down the road.
Yeah.
Even now, we try to. It's actually a good bias, I think, to not spend too much time building
Right.
the pieces you don't need yet.
Paralysis of analysis, as the
Exactly.
saying goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we had this phrase early on, which we didn't create, but it's that acronym YAGNI. You ain't gonna need it. You ain't gonna need it. So
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
anything you don't need today, don't focus on that.
Gotcha.
But we were not early in my career as mature and knowledgeable about which pieces need to come first. So I think I'm pretty proud of how we're doing it this time around,
Nice.
and
Great.
it should reduce the amount of time that it takes to get the company off the ground.
So your other companies paid for your education.
Tuition, it's all of it. Yeah, a lot of sweat equity tuition.
Right. But this is something to think about. So if you're a serial entrepreneur and it's not like Cheerios and Wheaties.
Your brain was exactly where mine was, where I'm thinking like, this is way too organized for our show and the listeners who are going to be.
Yeah, they might be intimidated.
Yeah, because they're like, well, because I mean, I think I talked about this in one of the other episodes where, you got to fake it till you make it, and you got to, you got to say yes to everything, which at the end of the day, we want to say no to a lot. We want to be very intentional. But in the, the early entrepreneur dreaming phase, there is a benefit to saying yes to everything because you get a lot of exposure to things. You learn, like this is definitely what I want to be doing, or like this is not what I want to be doing.
Right.
And you have this laser focus right out of the gate, and
Well, it may sound like that, but it's kind of on the backside of making a lot of decisions, and the decisions are always painful. I think.
Well, I wasn't knocking it too. I think it just shows that there's going to be there's many different ways. I cut you off. I'll let you get back to that. There's many different parts of the journey.
No, I think that's right. But again, he wouldn't have been able to do that if you hadn't done this before a few times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're exploring, as we did, like if you rewound the clock to October of last year, where we were still exploring a lot of different ideas, like we would have 3 or 4 totally different business ideas up on the whiteboard.
Yeah.
And be talking about which way do we want to go and how do we decide. And every time you decide, it feels like you're shutting a door, at least temporarily, to a whole space of opportunity. And it's really hard, I think, for people to do that sometimes. And so, the encouragement, I think, is make sure that you're not getting stuck in that decision-making cycle. Pick something, pick the most promising idea you have, and treat it as an experiment. Yeah. Go out there and see if it sticks, and then follow that thread wherever it leads.
Yeah, but the challenge is I know, how do you sort of balance the bias for action with the legitimate need to plan and prioritize? That's the challenging thing. Like I imagine that the grass skirt aspect of the business was kind of like an early decision that you're not going to sell grass skirts on the side.
That didn't quite.
The reason I brought that up is the Hawaiian connection. Anyway.
I'm still going to put that idea on the board on the way. That's a saying that a few of us
grass
have.
skirt business, man. I tell you, there's money in
You
that.
got to put what seems like the worst idea on the whiteboard just to get things on the board, and then it also helps. Maybe argue for some other ideas because it's like, well, at least it's not the grass skirt idea.
That's right. Now, depending on the nature of the grass, you might make money in the grass skirt business. But anyway, we are
probably
in
a
Portland
fine
area.
business.
But now you noted the painful dimension of this. Making a decision and saying no to something, and there is a kind of pain that you experience when you make those kinds of decisions because okay, now there's a whole range of possibilities that are no longer possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, what did you say no to?
We at least said not yet to a whole bunch of different fingerlings, as you like to call them, that could branch off of this business. So we may get back to those. We may find that some of them are really promising.
Yeah, right.
And they're nice because they're adjacent to what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't have to rule things out forever, but you do have to decide what are we focused on right now.
So here's a way to think about it. So like when you think about like a watch, so I've been kind of fascinated with like Swiss watches in the last few years. And and you've got this set of gears, that are turning in there, and one is driving another. I guess the thing is what's the mainspring?
yeah.
You know, what's the thing that's going to drive everything else? That's kind of the challenge,
Yeah.
figuring out what that thing is.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, we thought a lot on the technology side of things, but then we kind of decided like, well, boots on the ground actually might be a really good main component to this, so we can actually, we probably have background information on what we want the technology to look like or work or function, but why don't we get some boots on the ground so we actually get a full feel effect of how this actually will benefit.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
When you say boots on the ground, what do you specifically mean?
Hands-on, getting greasy, working on equipment.
Sure.
So
Okay.
the technicians.
Yep. Employing the technicians instead of just outsourcing all of that to third-party
Yes.
techs. for
Thank you.
example.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I think that's something that's gone away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, this was both, I think, a values-based decision for us. Values factored in significantly, and also a strategy one. On the values side, we both wanted to start a company that could be around for a long time and that could actually employ and provide meaningful career opportunities to the people that work with us.
Yeah.
The duration of the business matters to us because we want to really invest in the culture of the company, and that's really hard to spend time investing in and worrying about if it's growth at all costs and sell to the highest bidder kind of thing.
Right.
And I've had a little bit of experience with that. Very destructive to culture, in my opinion, and not how I wanted to, invest the next decade or two of my career.
So you maybe had some venture capital people kind of come along at some point.
We had a lot of conversations with the VCs in my previous company, and some of the fundraising decisions that we made created there were cultural implications.
Yeah, I've noticed this before. I've got friends who've also gone through that experience.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, these guys are going to be the kind of the thing that takes us to the next level. And then they become the thing that steals it from you, or the thing that like destroys you or whatever. Because they're really not interested in what you're doing. All they're interested in is like, maybe just even dismantling your thing and selling is what you've got to other people.
Yeah. It creates a lot of potentially unnatural pressures on the business depending on how you raise money. So
Right.
So yeah, creating a durable company, a values-driven company, not just one that was money-driven, was a factor. And then other elements are, like Grant mentioned, if you can be the customer for your own tech, that creates a lot of synergy that I've never had before in my career. And it's really exciting because you've got kind of authorial control of both the technology that you're using and the business operations. In my previous company, we could be as creative as possible with the software. You can be even more creative today with the age of AI and writing faster. So we had constraints, but you could be very creative there. The problem is you had to sell that kind of monolithic one-size product to 1,000 different customers that are all set up differently, and they have trouble adopting it. And so you have to try to adapt the software a bunch of different ways, and you have no control over how the customer actually uses it. The way that we're setting this up, we can, if the business needs to change, we can change the business process. If the software needs to change, we can change that. And I think this model of kind of integrating the service with the technology is going to become a lot more popular.
Well, I've picked up on that in other places, kind of the return to the vertically integrated company. A lot of it having to do with just disillusionment about offshoring stuff and people trying to bring stuff back home. And how do you create efficiencies when you're no longer sending stuff to like the Philippines or China and you're wanting to keep it home? Well, one of the ways is doing this, kind of keeping it all in house if you can do it.
Right.
Well, I think the successful companies that we see operating today, I mean, most of the people in that company are developers on some level, and so they're like Tesla makes their own software solutions. They don't go to Microsoft and be like, hey, can you make a software to run our machines and run processes and help us analyze things, And I mean, I'm having like a cringe moment just thinking of Salesforce trying to do, because that's what they'd be like. Yeah, we'll implement Salesforce to run your manufacturing your manufacturing machines. We'll make it work, and
Right.
it never works. I've never seen a Salesforce.
Yeah. Well, there's that side of it, and then there's the problem with using other people's stuff, and then they're like watching. They're watching all the time, and they're saying, "Oh, there's an opportunity there. We can compete with one of our customers." And next thing you know, Amazon's doing what you've been doing and trying to sell over their platform for like the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. And you're like, "Well, thanks, guys."
You're just building their
like,
IP.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So, well, that's great. So as you're thinking about kind of building out here, you mentioned we've got Vancouver, we've got Portland. Mm-hmm. Is there kind of like a natural progression, kind of like Seattle?
Which direction? Yeah, I think probably just figuring out maybe where the more hot pockets are right now, even if it's not necessarily close, within arm's reach. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really cool problems to solve in this business. One of them is just the logistics in your supply chain, being ready with the right parts and the right material every day to send the technician fully prepared to do the work, so that they don't need to run to 5 different places to find a part and stuff like that. Right. So if we can figure out that, then the question would be, did that anchor us to this location somehow, or we had to build a kind of boots on the ground supply chain? Right. Or did we solve that in a way that lets us pick another promising market all the way across the country?
Gotcha.
The other issue would just be, have we figured out how to manage a branch, as it were, at scale remotely? But if we can solve those 2 issues of the supply chain and the management from afar kind of thing, then I don't see any reason why we couldn't pretty quickly establish branches all the way across the country.
Cool. So I know one of the things that would come to my mind if I were listening to this show and I was thinking about getting into something that was ambitious like this is, where do I go for like the startup capital? Have you guys, are you self-funding, or is there other folks involved? Is there way for people to get involved if they have an interest in what you're doing?
Yeah, we're self-funded right now. We will be looking for more capital as the company grows. Mm-hmm. And we've had a few early conversations, open to more. Mm-hmm. But yeah, at this point, we've been able to try to keep cash needs pretty low and lean at first.
So when it comes to like people who could invest, do they need to be qualified investors, or is it something that is not kind of subject to that kind of constraint?
I think that's a really good question that we haven't crossed that bridge yet. In my previous background, it was all accredited investors when we did customer raises and things like that. So I imagine that would apply here.
Yeah. So in terms of what it means to be an accredited investor, just so folks out there know, you have to be kind of a net worth at a certain level, or an annual income at a certain level. Right. Otherwise, you're not qualified to invest. I know it's kind of seems unfair, but if you didn't have that kind of rule, there'd be a lot of shysters out there saying, "Hey, you want to buy the Brooklyn Bridge?" That kind of thing. So it was really originally intended.
Was that a thing?
It was once upon a time.
Oh man.
But that's a whole other conversation we should have someday.
I'll ask before, because I don't want to open up a can of worms that you may not want to talk about. But are some of the have-nots or the not-yets? Do you see this company staying in the mechanical, automotive, machinery, or do you see this company being something else or being more? Or is this not even? Am I asking a stupid question?
No.
That space is a pretty big space.
Very broad.
Yeah. So I don't feel like we're setting our sights to outgrow that industry.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are a lot of ways that this company could scale differently, potentially, than how we're envisioning right now. So,
okay. And you guys do the maintenance. Is that, at the end of the day, will Reliant be the one that's maintaining all the vehicles for your clients, or will you ever outsource that?
That's a good question. That's one of the ways that we could expand.
Okay.
So we have, at this point, at least 3 different planks to what we envision doing. One of them is the software side, and the working name for that is the Reliant operating system. So we're using it internally. We're eating our own dog food and going to build it, before we offer it to third parties. But there's the software piece, and then there's the service piece, which we've talked about, which is our dedicated team of in-house technicians that we can send to do work. And then the network would be third parties that we bring into some kind of a network where our software is potentially the link between the customer and the job. And
Sure.
But we're farming the work out to third parties.
So I can kind of imagine how this came about. I mean, your background and your background,
Yep.
it's kind of natural.
Yeah, this baby is
Yeah.
from those. Yeah,
Makes total sense.
makes total sense. I stopped my analogy because it was good. It was perfect. Yeah, but no, I'm not. I wasn't suggesting. I think you should outsource. I think one of my pet peeves in our current culture is that we don't have companies that have one person at the top that's responsible, and not just for what the product is delivered, but who maintains the staff, who sets the culture, who holds people accountable from the top. And there's so many simple, in real estate, we have all these maintenance companies or services, whether it's plumbing or electrical or simple maintenance. There's not a company that does these services it's all software solutions that are sales mechanisms that will find somebody to come do it. And then you get sold on that, and some guy shows up your house who's 10 processes removed from where
right.
you called or signed up. And then if there's ever a problem, it's just a pointing blame game of all these 10, processes. It's not my fault. That's what they told me. That's what I was hired to do. You got to talk to that person. And it just, and so I feel like I've been waiting for, and I love the idea, and I love companies that, there's a clear person, or in your case, two people that are driving a vision, that at the end of the day, if, one of these vehicles isn't maintained well, it's like, yeah, they can be, and Grant and Chris can be like, yeah, we need to fix this. Like, that's our job, you know?
And the nature of their customer is, different than, say, like the customer for Angie's List or something, because that's what came to mind when you were talking about that. So that typical customer is a person who's like, I've got a one-off thing.
Sure.
As opposed to like this ongoing long-term relationship.
I tried to use Angie's List actually for the first time, and it gave me a list of a bunch of people that I needed to hang a television, which you'd think, like, why would you hire somebody to hang a television? Because I bought a 100-inch television that weighed 160 pounds. And so
that'd be a reason to
all
hire
these
somebody.
people, messaged all of them, contact all of them. None of them contacted me. And so I called.
Your job came up, swipe left, swipe left, swipe left.
Yeah. I called up my cousin. He came over. We muscled that thing on the wall. And
When are you going to invite me over to see something with that enormous television of yours?
and he come to Dallas. You're coming in a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
that's right. I'll be down.
We'll watch a movie.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
But no, I think we're in an era too where you don't need this validation, but what you guys are doing is, there's a big need for it. And I think a lot of it's because there's a lot of lazy people right now. Yeah. And I mean, we see this in service industry in general, like, people can go out and wash windows and make a killing because nobody wants to wash windows, Right. And I mean, maybe that's also a sign that things are just too good.
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
But that's
Now, getting to this whole process, one of the things that I've mentioned a couple of times now is many of our listeners are people who haven't done this yet and are thinking about it, and maybe have some conceptual blocks, some fear, some apprehension. Maybe people in their lives who say, "Don't do that," that kind of stuff. So, what kind of things have you had to deal with? Don't have to name names, But what have you had to overcome in terms of this kind of stuff to get to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely I guess jumping off a cliff in a way, taking that step and just hoping in faith that, this is the direction that the Lord's directing us. And it's pretty cool though. And you start to see things just line up, and
Yeah.
it's just really reassuring at that point.
Yeah.
So I'd say that if anything, that feeling was pretty easy to overcome.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Christopher?
Yeah, probably could be a really long conversation if I'm not
We
careful.
can't. We got another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think entrepreneurship is probably not for everybody. It probably requires a certain temperament, and I don't think I had that temperament when I started. So I think a lot of it
So you can develop
can
it.
be developed. That's my view. But I think it requires quite a bit of self-awareness, quite a bit of humility, because it will humble you a lot, and good advice. And you have to be able to course correct when you're getting things wrong.
Right.
So
Right.
I think, basically the two paths that I could see for somebody who was interested in getting into it would be the path that I took, which was I did have, thankfully, a good mentor for about 6 months before we got into this. And he kind of followed us along, me and my co-founder, for a while.
Great.
So, mentorship matters. But I did dive into it straight out of college, basically. So I didn't have, I didn't
So we're
work
thinking
at
about your first.
yeah, I didn't work at a big company before trying to start my own company. And there's some advantages to that. The main one is timing. I think you can get kind of the ball rolling on something that's going to take a while to grow. If you are not married yet, you can keep your bills low.
Right.
So that's the path that I took. Realistically, it takes, at least me, a couple of years to get something reasonable off the ground.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty normal. I think it's going to take a while unless you've found something that's just like crazy. You've
Especially
been
your
crazy
first
lucky,
one.
right?
Right.
Yeah. Patience and persistence. I
Yep.
always told myself if I ever had kids, I was going to name them Patience and Percy, because I saw that pretty early on, that if you patience and persistence and you just keep grinding away,
Yeah.
it adds up, and it did in my case, and
Yeah.
it does in most entrepreneurs, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's true, especially if you're focused on something that people are paying you to do.
Yeah.
Like there is a real virtue in following the money early on.
Yeah.
Because it's not all about the money, but that's how
It tells you what people are valuing.
it is. Yeah.
Because you don't give
Am I
money for
selling the
things-
right thing? If it's hard to sell and people don't want it, it's telling you a lot.
Yeah, that does. That's right. So the point you made earlier about you can learn it is something that I think a lot of people wonder about. We've talked a little bit about
Yeah,
it.
we're debating it now.
Yeah.
I would have argued you can't learn it. I think I even said that at
Yeah.
some point, and now I'm like, maybe I was wrong. I'll admit it.
No,
There's three
this-
times in my life I've been wrong, and this is one of them.
But this is something that kind of there's a broader sort of like question. This is something that ancient philosophers would ask about virtue. They would say, does virtue come naturally? In other words, is it like you're born with it, or is it something that can be habituated and trained? You can kind of develop it. And so this is not like a new debate. It's been a long debate, and people, and there are obviously people who are kind of naturals at something, and then there are people who learn to do it. One of the things that makes the place we live, meaning the United States, such a really marvelous place to live. It has to do with kind of a preferential option for the entrepreneur. Whereas when I listen to people talking about this question who are coming from other parts of the world, particularly Europe, it's almost like everything is designed in that place to prevent this from happening. The attitudes, the mindset, the regulatory culture, everything seems to be like,
Oh yeah,
just do what you're told to do, work for the big company, that kind of thing. Whereas here we're encouraged to give it a try anyway. And even when you don't, this reminds me of something. You familiar with Nicholas Taleb?
Yeah.
He's great. He talks about risk. Are you familiar with Taleb?
no,
He wrote a number of books about risk. And he said at one point that we ought to celebrate We should have a day for honoring failed entrepreneurs.
What? I'm all for this guy now.
Basically, this is the point. You
I
know,
want
they
my
took
parade.
a risk.
I want my parade.
That's right. But they took a risk. We can at least give them points for saying you tried, man.
Sure.
You didn't play it safe.
Yeah. I remember early on when, this was maybe year 1 or 2, I was at a family reunion and we had my mom, they were Germans. One of the relatives came over from Germany and, he finds out that me and my cousin had started this company. He goes, how'd you do that? And I go, I didn't understand his question. What he really meant was, how did they let you start a company? Because in Germany, you'd have to get permission. And I was like, well, we did. We had to get a business license. And he's like, no, like the government would not allow you to build the company that you built because the government would decide if it was something that would be acceptable. And to your point, it's like, the regulatory are deciding what society is going to do, even from an innovation stance, which
is why we're eating their lunch.
Yeah. Wow.
So we are blessed to be as an entrepreneur, I think I'd go insane. So I'm blessed and happy to be here or in a place that.
And even in the state of Washington.
Yes.
Even in the state of Washington, it's still possible. You guys are like living proof.
Yeah.
That you can still start a business.
And they want you to, because they're going to tax the living crap out of you. They want you to succeed. That B&O's going up, the luxury vehicle taxes. They got the millionaire tax. They're rooting for every entrepreneur now. So sorry, I probably just put
That's why everybody's moving to Texas. But anyway, including you.
Yeah, I'm not a Washingtonian anymore.
Anyway, so I know that this next question is kind of the question that maybe, years from now when you look back and you hear this program, you cringe at your response. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? This is the hope. This is the hope for, kind of question. Mm-hmm. And we know that this is obviously not in your control, but at the same time, this is one of the things that gets you out of bed in the morning, I'm sure, is thinking about what could be. Yeah. So where do you want it to be in 5 years?
Yeah. I know for me, one of the things that definitely comes, I think it's for both of us, but like young guys, 18-year-old, doesn't know whether he should go to a trade or college. And at least this would be an option for the trade that he feels like he could actually build a solid career with high ceiling, no cap, whether he wanted to go into management, entrepreneur from there, but this would be an opportunity. So a huge training program within this business.
Nice.
Yeah, that resonates a lot. I think, in terms of my life goals, more in terms of quality than quantity. Right. And the type of business that we build matters more to me than how big it gets. Mm-hmm. So we do have targets. We have thoughts on how big this could be in 3 years. We're not looking at the 5-year window right now, but the 3-year window, we could, be in a couple of branches and, 30, 40 people potentially, mostly field staff, because we think we can keep the back office really, really lean and really focus on creating great career opportunities for all of our field-facing, customer-facing staff. Great. But like I mentioned at the beginning, I've got 7 kids, and the
getting older every day.
Yeah.
Staff is on its way.
Exactly. But thinking about the next generation is definitely on my mind a lot, because of them. And I think a big way that we can contribute to the future of like next generation is by charting a path for careers that we would want for them. So a big part of this for both of us is about the people and what type of company is going to be good for the customers long term and good for the people over the long haul. And that's really what we're focused on.
That's great. This, if you were to go and do like man on the street interviews, woman on the street interviews, and you were to ask what motivates an entrepreneur, I think that most people, particularly people who've never had any personal relationship with anybody that's actually started a business, would assume it's all about the money. But it's not. I mean, the entrepreneurs I've known over the years, it's about a lot more than that. I mean, the money obviously has to be there. The business doesn't succeed.
Sure.
but it's a much bigger thing than that.
I'm gonna keep all the money. Don't get me wrong, but no, you're absolutely right. I have a question. The things you were talking about, these targets that you're looking at to make your business great, are those defined? Like, do you have, like, I know you know what they are, like they're in your DNA. Are they written down anywhere?
So we've written early drafts of some of the vision documents,
Okay.
and what we haven't completely crystallized yet is like our core values and culture. We know basically that for our customers, we want them to experience by working with us that we provide a very proactive service, much more proactive than anything that they've experienced from a third party before. We're not just there for 911 calls. Like, we know their equipment, and they know their equipment better because they're working with us. Right. And also that we're more efficient than anybody that they've worked with before, and really easy to work with, and providing great quality at a great price. On the culture side, we have a lot of thoughts. I think it's more a matter of whittling down the core values, because we've got a lot of good ideas up on the board.
Great.
Well, and I think like many companies, I know we're hitting our time, but the people are gonna. I mean, eventually, the people are gonna define your culture. It helps to. I mean, you know this, but it helps to know what you're looking for, and so you can find the right people. But at the end of the day, the people you hire are going to be the ones that will define the culture, because that's how we roll. I love that you have, you have these key points defined. When I work with early entrepreneurs, it's so hard for them to believe that there's value in defining or really being specific about their vision, because they think, because we've been told it's like, it's just stupid stuff. Like, it's just ping pong tables, and, culture is just this catchphrase. Where I try to communicate with them, if you don't define it, you're not going to know what you're doing.
Right.
Like, if you don't define it, if you guys don't define this, you're going to be like, how did we get to selling hot dogs on the street? Which I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I mean, you get off track. And so anyway, I'm encouraged, and I hope anybody listening or watching is encouraged that, the example that you guys are setting and sharing is awesome.
Yeah, it's great stuff. Yeah, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank
Is there
you.
anything you
Thank
want
you.
folks to know as we kind of sign off? We obviously will put your website on.
How can they
show
track
notes.
you and stalk you?
They follow us online. We haven't been super active on social yet. I imagine that's going to change as we start to spin things up from a marketing standpoint. But I would love to hear from other folks that are doing similar stuff, maybe at a similar point in the journey. I love talking to guys that are kicking ideas around too. In between kind of getting out of my last company and doing this venture, I've been doing consulting for founders and medium-sized companies as well, just talking through strategy. So I'd love to be a sounding board and a resource for anybody that's doing similar stuff.
Yeah, that's great.
So reach out to Chris.
Yeah, that's right.
Track him down. Ask him. He's much more detour oriented than I am.
That's right. You're the other kind of entrepreneur.
I'm the other kind of serial. I'm the eat kind of serial entrepreneur.
Anyway, well, thanks for listening to this episode of the Chris and Chris Talk Business Podcast, and we'll be back with more shows in the future.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.